Thanks for your support as a channel member, Rens Nans! Max Verstappen was imperious on his way to victory at the Japanese Grand Prix, but I think this is a race that McLaren allowed to get away. Hello folks, and welcome back to another race reaction here on the channel, and today we're going to look back at the 2025 Japanese Grand Prix, won in brilliant fashion by Max Verstappen. Love him or loathe him, you have to accept he drove a fantastic race in the Red Bull, which has at times looked more like a bucking bronco this season than an actual racing car, but they tamed the beast in Suzuka and got pole position and the race win. And let's start there before we move on to my thoughts about McLaren. Verstappen, with that excellent pole lap on Saturday, earned himself the right to dictate the race. I said in my predictions that whoever was on pole would have control of the race, and that's exactly what Verstappen earned himself on Saturday. That 12 thousandths of a second margin to Lando Norris was all it took to give him, I suppose, sort of global control of what happened next, although there were opportunities for McLaren, which I will come to in a minute. But Max is operating at such a level right now where he's winning races in a slower car, and that's the true sign of the world champion that he is. We've seen Hamilton do it, Alonso do it, Schumacher, Senna, all the very, very greats have done exactly that, and Verstappen is operating on exactly that level, and that's the level that Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri want to reach. So even despite the slower car, Verstappen knew that having that pole position, getting away from the line first, because he still had to win the start, and he did that. He had everything under control. The gap got to about 2.3 seconds maybe before the first pit stop. It was a little bit bigger than that after the pit stops, because obviously Norris lost time going on the grass, exiting the pit lane and then through the traffic. But then obviously McLaren were so quick, they closed back in with both cars. And I think that showed you that had Verstappen lost track position, he wouldn't have seen the McLarens again. They'd have just taken off. He wouldn't have had an answer. So keeping them bottled up in clear air as much as he could, in dirty air as much as he could, then it kept him in control of his own destiny. Had they got ahead, I don't think Verstappen would have been able to respond. And because it was a one-stop race, there was very limited opportunity for McLaren to make those opportunities count, but they still managed to find a way, I think, to let it get away. And look, I'm not going to criticise Max Verstappen at all here. This isn't a slight on him when I say McLaren should have won this race. Verstappen won a race he shouldn't have won, and that's probably the highest praise you can give a Grand Prix driver, especially one who's won 4 World Championships. So what do I mean by McLaren let this get away? Well, they had a 2 versus 1 at the front. Christian Horner said it himself. And even though Oscar Piastri after the race said he wasn't sure going longer would have worked, it was at least worth a try. I think in that situation where you've got a 2v1, you either go for a really aggressive undercut or you run really long and just mirror the lead car strategy, in this case Verstappen, with one of your other cars. You at least give yourself a chance. Jacques Villeneuve was saying on the Sky Sports commentary that if they just did what Verstappen was doing, they'd have no chance of passing him because they didn't have enough of a pace advantage, especially in the dirty air, to make it count. It's only a single DRS zone. It's not a particularly long straight at Suzuka. It's not a hard braking zone. It's difficult to get by. So I don't know why McLaren felt that they needed to get that undercut. I mean, the only justification I can go with is they knew that the combination of clear air and their car would do the damage. But those gaps never materialised. So they should never have put themselves in a position where they had both cars on the same strategy as Verstappen. And yet they did. They almost got there. And they almost pinched the lead from Verstappen. The slow stop for Red Bull gave Norris a chance. Had he been right on the gearbox of the Red Bull as they entered the pit lane, he would have been passed, but he wasn't quite close enough at that time, and it allowed Red Bull to have a stop that was about a second slower than McLaren, which is unlike Red Bull. Let's be honest, they're usually the kings of pit stops, and it almost almost got away from them as a result, but Verstappen was just far enough ahead to stay in front, and Norris wasn't able to get by. Should they have swapped the cars? No. There was debates going on in the commentary booth between Crofty and Villeneuve. I don't know why David Croft was sort of championing this. You're only at race 3. Why would you bother swapping the cars around? You're just going to annoy your drivers. Okay, they could swap back, but what if Piastri didn't swap back? Who knows? I mean, Piastri, I think, would have run into exactly the same issue that Lando Norris had, which was he couldn't get close enough. We even saw Piastri come out of the chicane about 0.4 of a second behind Norris with the DRS. Norris didn't have DRS, and he still couldn't get by. So that tells you everything you need to know. McLaren, I think, let this one get away because they didn't run long. Had they run long, they could have put some big laps in, or at least had the tyre offset and closed the gap. But I think the tyres were also durable enough, it wouldn't have really mattered. Kimi Antonelli on the fresher hard tyres was catching his teammate George Russell, but it wasn't really quick enough to get the job done in terms of gaining a position. And when he got there, I don't think he would have got past anyway. So, yeah, I think it was just one of those races where the track layout, the way the cars are now, the rear wings, they look much more square to me than they did at the start of this regulation set, where they were really sort of curvy, and they don't give so much of a slipstream effect now, I don't think, because of the way they throw the airflow up rather than back. At least that's my sort of take on it. I'm not an aerodynamicist, so if there's an aerodynamicist watching this, please correct me if that is incorrect, but I just think, yeah, the combination of the track layout, the way the cars are, it didn't play to overtaking. And a lot of people would say it was a boring race, and in some aspects it was a bit of a snooze fest, but actually coming towards the end of that race, there was a few butterflies in my stomach. That tension, that nervous excitement. Can Lando get close enough? Is he going to get past by Piastri? What if Verstappen makes a mistake? And he was faultless today. He could have made an error and the McLarens would have been by and they would have been gone. But he kept it all under control and he took a very impressive victory and closed the championship lead for Norris down to a single point. If you'd offered Red Bull being a point behind Norris after 3 races, they'd have snapped your hand off for it. I absolutely tell you that now. Talking of Red Bull, let's have a look at their sister team, B team, whatever you want to call it, team, Racing Bulls. Isaac Hadjar. Difficult qualifying session with the seat belts and their positioning, but actually he got it into Q3 and then he delivered a very good race and got himself 4 World Championship points. So kudos to Isaac Hadjar. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure he was ready for Formula One. Then obviously Australia happened and he was impressive there. The car looks good actually with Racing Bulls. And, you know, on those weekends where the Red Bull itself looks like a bucking Bronco, maybe the Racing Bull is the car to have. But Hadjar has done much better than I anticipated. He's been much closer to his teammates because now obviously he's got Liam Lawson. He was ahead of Liam Lawson all this weekend. So I think that's maybe to be expected because Lawson, okay, has a bit of a point to prove, but he's going to have to rebuild that self-confidence in the Racing Bull. So well done to Isaac Hadjar, getting his first Formula One points with a very impressive drive, finishing in 8th place. So yeah, how would I rate that race? I said it wasn't the most exciting. I would give it is a 6 too generous? Let's go with a 5.5 because there was some intrigue towards the end of will the McLarens catch, will they pass, will they swap, how will this finish, even though nothing eventually happened. And sometimes you don't need an overtake to make it an exciting finish. I think we got something close to an exciting finish, but not quite an exciting finish, if you know what I mean. And then alternate driver of the day. Yuki Tsunoda got the driver of the day vote. I mean, it baffles me. Absolutely baffles me. And there wasn't many options really, but you cannot look anywhere other than Max Verstappen for driver of the day. Yeah, he was absolutely exemplary and ignites a proper title fight. 3 different race winners from the first 3 races, and we go to Bahrain, a venue where Ferrari have historically been very, very strong. Can they work the Oracle again and put one of Lewis or Charles on the top step next weekend? We'll have to find out in Sakir. But thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought of the race, how you'd rate it, and who your alternative driver of the day was. I'll see you next time. You're the best fans. And remember, be fast or be last.